One night I went to bed. I woke up by a white light in my room. And this white light just completely took over the entire room. I got out of bed and I looked at my phone and it was 3:33 in the morning. When I got out of my bed to go to the window, I looked through the blinds and the white light was so bright and my entire body paralyzed. And I felt myself being drawn and taken in between the wall, the windows, to the other side. And from the white light, everything was completely silent and still. It was like in a bubble of time. And emerged these beings. They were a combination of these humanoid / muscular ant-like beings. Two of these larger grays are guiding my aunt, who is in her nightgown. She's completely unconscious. And in front of me are these two shorter grays now that show me a prism, a holographic blue cube-like prism with lines that are giving me layers of information. And I'm being shown, and finally, after they brought me back, they show me 8 little lights, and from 8 little lights, 4 children manifest in front of me, and they present me to what they show me as my children. They began to show me how the matrix actually functions, how this holographic universe exists, down to the molecular level, the structure of an atom as it creates a toroidal field, a network of information, how we're interconnected, quantum non-locality, how that functions, how we intercommunicate. Higher vibrational, more advanced civilizations, they are into instant manifestation. They create, and that means that they are super congruent, aligned with themselves in absolute authenticity, and they exist in truth.
Today we are talking with Geraldine Orozco. Geraldine is known as a hybrid mother, where she shares her experiences of being abducted a number of times as part of a top secret alien hybrid breeding program, which resulted in 24 hybrid children, and has experienced ET contact throughout her whole life. Today, Geraldine is a certified hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic practitioner, and is certified in a number of different quantum healing modalities. She also offers shamanic training to assist with the journey of healing, to uncover and integrate subconscious memories, and to tap into the collective quantum field as part of a transformational process to assist with personal growth to help create a life of purpose and co-creation. Geraldine has appeared in numerous documentaries as well as on Gaia Television, and we are very happy to have her join us today. So we want to welcome you to the show, Geraldine. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a gift to be here.
Well, it's definitely a gift for us to have you as a guest as well. I know your story is very unique, and it's one that you've shared numerous times. So we appreciate you being here to share it with our audience as well. So I think we have a lot to talk about with you. But for those who may not know your story, can you just start by letting us know, when did this all begin for you, and how did these experiences unfold?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a lifelong contactee. I've had these kinds of experiences since I was, very young, but I didn't have the language or the vocabulary or the know-how to be able to explain those kinds of experiences, even as ET. That wasn't even in my realm of consciousness as growing up. I didn't really watch sci-fi films or anything like that. So for me, it was just white lights, beings, angels. Then, the conscious of angels kind of emerged. And so the way that I connected to these beings was really more of an organic connection. I had a very strong connection to the Pleiades. I would pray to the Pleiades every morning. I don't know why, I just had this incredible yearning to return to the Pleiades without even understanding what that really meant as a child. And, I grew up in a very spiritual family. I grew up meditating, and my journey took me really deep after the death of a partner. And it made me begin to question, how is it that we play this matrix, right? We do everything that we're supposed to do in this matrix, but yet we have such incredible, impactful events in our life. So what does that mean? What is the meaning of the soul? What is love? What is really the purpose of our lives as humans here? And that's when I really began to deep dive into meditation. And I began to go into these inquiries, and I began to unpack subconsciously my own programming, essentially. And it took me down very deep rabbit holes through the emotional body, is where I began to uncover these memories of these events that were happening to me in my life. First, my own personal life, just with my family life and programs and traumas, things like that. And then I began to uncover another layer that was unexpected, which was interdimensional awareness, dreams that I had been having, and then other kind of experiences that, are not just regular human-like experiences. They're kind of strange phenomena. So that's when I began to question, well, what is beyond this? Who is controlling? Who's behind the matrix as we know it? Who's really running the show? And it began to take me back into ancestral lineages, all the way back to the origin of my bloodline. And I began to realize that a lot of these programs and belief systems are really quite ancestral. It's generations of programming, and really the human has a huge choice into what they're, embedding and creating as a reality. And that's when things began to open. And in October of 2013, I took 4 months off to go into this deep meditation, into retreat. And I was meditating maybe up to 9 hours a day. It was just a complete connection. What that caused is that it opened up a new level of awareness for me. And one night I went to bed. I woke up by a white light in my room. And this white light just completely took over the entire room. And I got out of bed, and I looked at my phone, and it was 3:33 in the morning. And that essentially, when I got out of my bed to go to the window, I looked through the blinds, and the white light was so bright, and my entire body paralyzed. And I felt myself being drawn and taken in between the wall, the windows, to the other side. And from the white light, everything was completely silent and still. It was like in a bubble of time, stopped time, and emerged these beings, these incredible beings that I never could ever imagine in my life. And they were a combination of these humanoid / muscular ant-like beings is the best way that I can describe the bodies. But they had these giant, larger heads on the top, and these big black eyes. But even though I was terrified, the feeling that they gave me was not one of me being in danger. And in my mind, I heard telepathically the word calm. Okay. So all the emotion of terror just eliminated from the body from 1 second to the next. And essentially, they directed me towards the craft, which is this gigantic plasma light that is moving in and out of shape. And it's like a metal, but a plasma. And it was completely conscious, because as I step into the craft, I'm completely conscious of the technology. And the technology is conscious of me, and that's the best way that I can describe it to you. But it had two hallways that would wrap around, go one to the right, one to the left. We went to the left, and in the left, if they set up a holographic cover, so I wouldn't quite see where I was going, and they were kind of directing me with this hologram into one of the rooms. And as I turn around, I see 2 tall grays, and so the grays are about 7 feet tall, like a moraine gray, like a darker gray, and then a softer yellowish color in the belly. And 2 of these larger grays are guiding my aunt, who is in her nightgown, and her hair is just, she's completely unconscious in front of me. And I'm trying to call her out, but I'm paralyzed. I can't really speak or communicate. And they disappear into the hologram, and I look, and they clear everything out. And in front of me are these 2 shorter grays now that show me a prism, a holographic blue cube-like prism with lines that are giving me layers of information. And I'm being shown alien language, which is a telepathic language. And I realize that the way that they communicate is in universes. So it's a concept of the self, let's say the home, the city, the society, the country that you're in, the planet, the galaxy, and then they tell you their thought. It's like an extremely expansive way of communicating. That was new. That was very new for me. And as I would see the language, it would be a telepathic imagery that would come up in my mind. So it was just mind-blowing. But that is removed, and they show me 7 little lights, and from those 7 lights expands the Pleiades. Pleiades, the constellation, and immediately I recognized this as the Seven Sisters. I knew it as the Seven Sisters as a child. And basically they take me to the Pleiades, to the planet Maya. We're taken to the planet Maya, and they show me two separate timelines in which they are showing me myself on the planet Maya at different stages of my evolution, different lifetimes really, because in one of them I am a woman, and in the other one I am a very old man with long white hair and a long white beard. And I'm teaching in both of them, teaching something. And at that time, I wasn't really doing that kind of work yet. But they were showing me that I had done that many times. And finally, after they brought me back, they show me 8 little lights, and from 8 little lights, 4 children manifest in front of me, and they present me to what they show me as my children. And these children, there are 4, 2 little girls, one of which I would have a reoccurring dream as a child that from a white light, my mother would introduce me to this little blonde girl, beautiful blonde girl with greenish blue eyes, just a very frail kind of body, different kind of grayish white skin, translucent almost hair and skin, just a very different kind of body. But I recognized her. And then there was an older young man that was, it was an older boy he was a half reptilian, half humanoid. So when I saw them, there was a very conflicting emotion, like, what is this, and how did this happen? And I don't remember this. How can I forget that I had a child? I started to feel so bad and think, where was I? But then as soon as I connected with the child, all of a sudden I was flooded with all the memories of having been on board craft, having connected with them, having actually held them. Everything came rushing back, and it was a major existential shock, because then I realized, oh boy, there's something going on here, and I am ready to leave my earth life and be with these children. But these children, they knew that it was just a meeting, an exchange, and they were taken, and I became emotional, of course, and they began to show me how the matrix actually functions, how this holographic universe exists down to the molecular level, the structure of an atom as it creates a toroidal field, a network of information, how we're interconnected, quantum non-locality, how that functions, how we intercommunicate. And essentially, we're not separate from anything at all. We are completely one with everything. And that, for the first time, allowed me to feel so united, not only with my Earth family and myself, but all of these other aspects that were being introduced to me. And I began to realize our human life is way more important than what we think it is. And our soul is something different, because they showed me specifically the soul, the essence of the human being, very different from the rest of this matter that kind of projects. It's a different frequency. Our holographic reality that we call reality is quite different than the essence of the soul. So that was a huge wake-up call. And I felt peace. For the first time in my entire life, I felt profound peace. So that is how that happened. And as a result of that, I opened my eyes and I'm at the very end of my bed. I left at 3:33 in the morning, got back at 6:15 in the morning. My feet were dirty. I had burn marks over here on my cheeks. My hands were red. I don't know why. But as I sink into the floor, I start crying, and they were tears of joy, but also confusion, because I thought I need to call the police, I need to call the hospital, figure out how to get these children back or what to do. But then I thought, I would be insane. And so I would be seemed as I was going crazy. So I just calmed down and waited. And I slept the entire Saturday from like 6 to I think 8 a.m. the next day. And then I called my parents, and I let them know what happened to me. And they told me they have had some kind of similar experiences, not as vivid as mine. And that shocked me, because I was like, what? How is it that we never talked about these kinds of things ever? This is huge, And then the next day I went to teach my client meditation. I was teaching meditation, and all I saw was this gigantic ball of light and colors and energy, and I could feel everything that she was thinking, and where she was going and what she did yesterday. I mean, it was just completely transparent, and the veil had just ripped open. And it was 3 months that I could not leave my house. I could literally hear the person 3 houses down having a conversation from my house. It was just, so I had to take some time to, calibrate myself energetically before I could even go out. But that was my proof. I think if that didn't happen, I'm not even sure that I would even understand, the impact of this event.
Hey there. If you're enjoying today's episode, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. Creating content you enjoy takes a lot of effort, passion, and resources, and your support truly makes the difference. By subscribing, you're helping us grow and continue to produce more incredible content just for you. And if you know someone who you think might enjoy these discussions, we would appreciate if you would share this video with them as well so they can enjoy it too. And don't forget to check out our website at etherealedgepodcast.com, where you can join our community, find out about upcoming events, and sign up for a free chakra ebook. We want to thank you so much for being part of our community. We really appreciate your support. Now back to the show.
What you just said about that just happened and that's how you knew, did you mean that when you saw your client, you saw this big light? Was that what you were talking about?
Yes. Well, essentially, it just activated my intuitive abilities. So Friday before that, I did not have that ability, okay, at all. So Monday, it was just everything ripped open. And with the sensitivity, the intuition was just, so I had to learn how to use that. I had to learn how to, use my energy body. I sat more in meditation to figure out what all this information that I was now seeing was. And that's how I went into deep healing. And I created the modality that I use now called DNA reprogramming as a result of this awareness, but it took quite some time. Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, how do you come back from that and thank God you said that your parents had gone through similar things, but how do you have relationships after that? I mean, they've got to be a little bit intense.
Well, I think for me, it was, there's a profound humility that kind of comes with this information, because what you realize is that you know nothing. You know a lot, but you see a lot, but you don't really know. And it's just, what that means, that level of awareness is helping us understand the level of maturity that the human race is at right now. And, we have so much more to evolve into. So I think that one of the things is that, first of all, it's like we're babies, we're barely learning how to use this beautiful body. This body is so incredibly complex, the technology of it. And I think profound compassion came into me, because I have been doing a lot of internal work up until that moment. I think that if I didn't have that spiritual foundation, this would have gone a different way. I also think that it's because of the shift in vibrational frequency that allowed this event to even be available to me, because it is about frequency. Contact, interdimensional awareness is all about how you sustain frequencies, So for me, relationships were different, but in the beginning, I compartmentalized them because I didn't know how to merge this awareness with everyday life. I still had a high-end event planning company. I had my meditation school, meditation groups, and my partner didn't want to have anything to do with it. I met him like literally 4 months after that. And, I told him what happened. He's like, oh, that's amazing. Really interesting. But the truth is that he wasn't quite, ready for that. And I understood, but it took some time. And I think at some point in 2017, I really had to make a decision. And I started to realize, because I started to have even more intense dreams and experiences again, that were really calling me to come into a deeper authenticity. And so living a double life just wasn't working anymore. So I had to find a way to merge, right? And I think I had been going through that journey, like even since before, because my question, part of those original questions were, how do you have a regular life and a spiritual life? That was the first part, So when I began to realize that, then this was the next level. So I literally had to end my engagement. I had to, sell my business from one day to the next, because I really realized that there was a different purpose here. And also I had a hypnotherapy, several hypnotherapies actually during that time. And they're all public. You can watch them. They're very interesting. I'm channeling all kinds of information where I'm seeing the map of the world and downloading massive amounts of information about how humanity came to be as a result of these hybridization programs, and what is our DNA. It's all in the DNA. So that's where my interest in holographic DNA and spiritual biology really came to be into the work that I'm doing now.
I'm going to go back to you mentioned you had children that you met on the craft.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding that now you have a lot of children. How many do you have as of today? And do you have experiences with them? Are you able to speak with them at times?
Yeah, so here's the thing. My understanding of this has evolved a lot since that time. I used to think that it's just it's like us here on the planet. Like we have kids and we're deeply connected to them and we raise them, we grow them, we cultivate connections with them. But what I began to realize is that time, first of all, it's not linear. We live in a spherical model in which everything exists simultaneously. Okay, so if you really understand what that means, that our concept of past lives, future lives are actually all accessible to the human at this time. And in reality, we've had many lives as the female form, as the womb in which we create life, and also as a male. So all of those are part of this human experience. And millions of men and women have the experiences of having these dreams of hybrid children. There's a very specific process. We can get into that in just a moment. But the connection between these creations that we participate in making have to do with our vibrational frequency. They have to do with our soul contracts that we have with ourself, with family groups, with star seed lineages that we hold within our genetic code. And essentially having children is a natural part of this dimensional creation, this birthing of life, which is the creation of a soul. There's a tremendous amount of responsibility behind creating a soul because we are interlinked. We share the same genetic information, which means that all of our life choices from beginning to end are affecting this other organism and vice versa. So I think that in reality, you and I are relatives. I mean, just 2,000 years ago, you and I have a relative in common. We are emerging from one little pool database of information. So we are really all deeply interconnected. Okay, so not only on this planet, but interdimensionally with other species that we have genetically in our lineage. So the way that I look at it now is that these presentations are meant for two reasons. One of them is to wake up consciousness in the individual, in the person that helped create that. And the other is that it's an imprint. It's an energetic imprint to the being in order for them to develop, to also raise their conscious awareness about their origin or where they are connected. A lot of these births are not all happening in this lifetime. They are past or future lifetimes that we recall. And because in these dimensions, though that time and space doesn't exist, the human really becomes aware of it. So our job and our work as a mother or a father in the hybridization program is the consistent evolution, because how we heal the human race, how we heal ourselves, how we heal our children is by becoming an example and holding that vibrational frequency, an energetic space of ascension, of profound awareness. That biologically, through this electromagnetic field and system, is raising the consciousness of these beings. And the reason why I say that is because there are many different agendas and different intentions for the creations of these beings, which we participate in. Consciously or unconsciously, the agreement is made. And it speaks to our level of frequency at the time that we made that agreement. So our evolution is in the awareness that we make this life. And then our ascension is in how we hold the frequency and how we interact with the beings. So it's not so much about keeping a relationship in earth, like earth terms. It's more about our spiritual evolution and how it's collectively raising the frequency of these organisms that we are interconnected with, such as our family. That's part of one of the gifts that we have in terms of ascension.
There are so many dots that you just connected there for me, just the way you explained that. So I appreciate you sharing that. You did mention that you had an aunt, a relative with you during the experience. Does she remember what happened to her? And had you communicated with that after the fact?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So I had only told my parents and my partner at the time in 2013 what had happened to me. After that, I was mute for so many years until 2017. I had the hypnotherapy. I went for the first time to a support group. And that's where I met someone that recruited me to be a part of a documentary called Extraordinary, The Seeding. And it was all about the hybridization program. And so that's award-winning. I think it won like 16 awards. Very interesting, well-done film. When the film came public, my aunt saw it for the first time. My whole family saw it, really. And that's when she approached me and she said, Geraldine, October 2013, on that night, I had a dream that a being, a gray, came, injected something in the back of my neck. I lost consciousness and I don't remember anything. Then 4 hours later, I wake up in my bed with a fever of 100 and something, 104, 105, get rushed to the hospital. They can't find anything in me. I'm like passing out in and out of consciousness. This thing swole up, and literally she has a picture of the back of her neck completely swollen here. Within 3 hours, 100% fine. No fever, no problem, nothing, just 100% recovered from that. And she says, and I had the dream, and the beings, when they were injecting me in my neck, they said, don't worry, we're not harming you, or you're going to be fine. That's what they told her, that you're going to be fine. But she was horrible. She was terrified. And, she told her husband the dream and what happened, and they ended up in the hospital. They went back home. They didn't know what happened. They didn't tell anyone about that either in that way. So it was shocking to me. And I said, yeah. And basically, she was wearing the nightgown. We talked about what were you wearing. It was exactly what she was wearing that night. So that was the shocking thing for me. But to be honest, now after I hold my own support groups, I have international support groups now. People that come to the groups, they meet each other, and sometimes they recognize each other. We have somebody from China recognizing somebody from Europe that they met on board craft. So that is actually not an uncommon thing. But it is very interesting that it was in the family at that same night. And I did some research about that, working with families that are having contact experiences and hypnotizing them individually, and nobody shares their story until the end. And what I found is that a lot of this contact is passed down generationally. In fact, we connect with specific starseed lineages as family groups. Okay, so we have families that all of them individually are connecting with a blue bloodline of some kind, described very similarly by each one of them. None of them have ever spoken about it to each other. And then this other one is connected with Lyran. I know I connected with Andromedan. And of course, a lot of them are looking at many, because the thing is, we are all the lineage. We have every part of that in our genetic code. It's just a matter of activation of that memory part of us. These families are having councils, and a lot of people connect with or have these experiences with councils. Councils are usually made up of many different species, and we see it that way. And what I've kind of come to understand, and what I've channeled through this information, is that these councils are literally like a holographic projection of what we hold in our genetic code and what we connect to. So that was a really interesting part to uncover.
I bet. I mean, I'm sure it must have been quite a shock, especially when you mentioned you talked to your parents and they didn't seem too surprised.
It was, yes. I did not expect that. I thought they would look at me like, oh, honey, let's get you some help. I really so
exactly.
Worried about
exactly.
And
we're going to be admitting you somewhere for a little while.
But they come to me with the stories. Oh, yeah, I've seen UFOs, and all when I was a kid, and I had these dreams. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is very serious. And because I had understood what the Matrix was, so this is what we should be talking about. And then later on, I realized that actually thousands of men and women are having these experiences, especially in the hybridization program. And sometimes it results in literal PTSD because they have a really hard time reintegrating into their life, So we need to learn, we need to educate ourselves on what is interdimensionality, because it's a very important part of our human experience.
In fact, we were just visiting with Barbara Lamb recently, and we were talking about all of this, of course, one of our favorite topics. And we were saying, how many times are people being misdiagnosed with maybe like multiple personality disorder, but it's actually that, they're a walk-in, or, they're a hybrid, and their life completely changed because they had a new soul enter into their vessel. And so it's just interesting. It kind of opens up the mind to what possibilities really exist and what else is out there.
That's right. And unfortunately, they're put on medications and all of their abilities are kind of like numbed down, and then they get even more confused, go deep into depression. So it can be very dangerous. So also, aside from that, psychology has to catch up also. They have to understand this connection between this metaphysical element of humanity, and then, this chemistry as well, because there's so much to understand. The human body is quite complex. But yeah, so the humans that are having these experiences, they are unlocking parts of themselves, and it's a matter of integration. And in our spiritual community also, sometimes we tend to hold on to things and we want to make things a religion sometimes, in which we want to identify 100% with any one of the things that we experience. But I think it's really important for the human to understand that we are ever evolving, and we are everything and nothing at the same time, actually, because that's going to help the human in a very compassionate way move through the parts of not being attached to anything, but also at the same time being friends with the unknown, which is it's a constant that we have to learn to connect with.
It just reminds me, we had a near-death experiencer as a guest one time, and one of his explanations was that the surprise of the unknown is really what being a human is all about, is just really the discovery of the new information that you're learning, because when you're on the other side, everything is available to you as knowledge. So there's no surprises. It's all right there. But when you're here, you're constantly unfolding this information and this knowledge that, is kind of surprising moment after moment. So that was a piece of information that was impactful for me to hear at that time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of times, Geraldine, people come back with heightened senses of abilities, sensory abilities. Some people come back and they're psychic, or maybe have telepathic abilities or anything of that nature. Did you come back with any of those abilities after these experiences?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, the connection of seeing this human's multidimensional body was essentially the activation of my intuitive abilities. It was all of them at once. So it was like I could hear, I could sense, I could feel, all of the clairs just ripped open in that moment. And essentially that really completely changed my life in such a powerful way, because I had to learn how to be a human with these sense abilities. And what happened is that I began to map out in my body how energy, because I could see how energy runways were interconnected with the chakra system. And I began to realize that these chakras are literally like filters of our reality and the information that we come, the connection to DNA, which is the core database of information. It's the blueprint of information that from there, everything is projecting out. And then, I decided to get training in pranic healing, because I researched in pranic healing, and the way that it's taught is very nice and thorough. And it was the closest that I can find to the information that I was basically accessing through the body. And even then finding some little things that, weren't quite as accurate, because I'm seeing things in vivo in the body. So this allowed me to create the healing modality of DNA reprogramming, which essentially is teaching people how to use this body in order to open up these memories. Memory is one of the most important part of our evolution, because as we begin to recover memory of who we are, first in this lifetime, even the memories that we've suppressed, especially by trauma, that is fractals of yourself. that have to be reintegrated. And what happens is that the body, the human body, the multidimensional body starts to restructure itself into this larger organism of consciousness. And that biologically has a lot of effects. Thick gray matter in the brain, down the spine. We literally are creating this conduit system bioelectrically in the body, biochemically, that is allowing the human to navigate this physical realm in a way that is really powerfully co-creative, and especially the ability to access free will, which is the most important. Because without this kind of awareness and mastery over the body, humans really do not have free will, because we are deeply repeating cyclical patterns through our DNA of ancestral traumas that we're not even aware of. And the majority of humanity, by the time we reach our late 20s, 30s, we don't even know how we got there. We don't even know ourselves. So that level of awareness is extremely important. And it's the beginning into the cultivation of the energy body.
When's the last time you've had an ET contact? Has it been recently?
Yeah, so in reality, I'm in contact all the time. We are constantly surrounded by beings and entities every moment of our day. So at this point, it's just a matter of really channeling my intention. And this is also important for those that are contactees. Once you understand and once you get over the novelty of connecting with these interdimensional beings, it's important to, number one, be extremely discerning about how you are using these abilities now. Because a lot of people go into patterns of attachment and depletion of their life force, and then they begin to externalize their power, again, it's turned into somewhat of a religion, and that means that they look outside for some guidance or support or something like that. So we have our own guides, and we have to understand that the interactions that we have interdimensionally are all a projection of ourselves. It's a vibrational frequency extension of ourselves. And we need to become aware of what our agreements are with these beings in order to understand how to navigate, how to transcend, because every contact experience, every experience is an opportunity for ascension, which means we are alchemizing a lower form of consciousness into a higher state of consciousness. The beings that we interact with hold certain frequency information and memories about ourselves that we need to become aware of. So I work contractually with these beings to see who I need to be worked with or who I need to engage with. But my channel comes directly from my source at this point, because I've had many invitations over the years to channel information by many different groups. And as you begin to kind of dissect the information, you begin to notice the difference between parasitic groups of consciousness and also really high vibrational frequencies. And what I've discovered is that really high vibrational entities and beings, they do not interfere in any way, and they don't impose timelines or deadlines or any kind of pushing of any kind of information. That kind of energy manipulation is usually from a lower spectrum of frequency. And it doesn't matter if they look like Jesus or God or this incredible Arcturian being, whatever it is, the projections that they give of themselves don't really say much, because they're operating from our subconscious mind, actually. We are co-creating the imagery. The actual intention of the frequency has to be discerned by the creator, which is us. That being said, kind of just refining like who I work with and how and why, and also teaching people how to do that as well.
So with everything going on in the world, I mean, would these entities step in? Will they help us with, in terms of, again, the tumultuous activities when, overseas and the wars and this and that and the other thing? What are your thoughts on that?
The human potential is really infinite, and that's something that humanity has to wake up conscious to right now. They have to understand the amount of free will that is available to them based on how much they're willing to take the responsibility and accountability for the free will. We literally have 100% ability to project the timelines in our own lives and collectively. 100%. The human has to align themselves in a higher octave of frequency And from there, we transform our lives. We become creators. That's the thing. And to be a creator is something that we're just learning. We're a very nascent humanity that just is just learning what that really means. You know, a lot of higher vibrational, more advanced civilizations, they are into instant manifestation. They create, and that means that they are super congruent, aligned with themselves in absolute authenticity, and they exist in truth. And that kind of way of existing, has its own challenges, but also in the way that they manifest, they are sustaining humanity in a reality that's a different octave of experience. In that same way, we in the human race, we're literally experiencing duality and contrasts through wars and internal things as a direct reflection of the internal wars that each human has within themselves. The level of ignorance that we have of our own shadows, of our own fears, is the exact reflection that we see in the world, in wars, in suffering, in famine, in abuse. So the process of this human experience, the human arc, as they say, being born, incarnated into the physical body, is the process of remembering that you are the alchemist creator of this life. And the moment that the human wakes up in that awareness and begins to apply that into their life, that's where the timeline is going to change. Right now, the collective consciousness is being educated on how to do that right now, and it's up to us. Okay, so what does that mean? In addition to that, on top of being a creator of these timelines and healing the human timeline through our actions and intentions, we are becoming multidimensional. And we are already multidimensional, but in this current collective shared timeline, we're just waking up to that awareness. So it's going to take some time in the next 10 years for us, but 20 years from now, this world will be a very different place, and we're going to fast forward into that in the next few years. So it's going to be a major, massive learning curve. People have to understand multidimensionality. Schools on energy cultivation will rise because that is the technology that is emerging. That's the organic technology that is emerging. And with that comes the infinite vision of interdimensionality, which means we become aware of all of our starseed lineages. We connect with interdimensional beings. Each human has specific agreements with their bloodlines that they're here to work with. As we move towards unity consciousness, the veil is going to lift between the groups, the interdimensional groups that we're aware of. The way that we see them is going to change. These, ET species, the way that we interact with them is going to change, and the way that we use this connection between them is going to change. My hope is that humanity, there are two timelines that are available, major overlay timelines that are available for humanity. One, that they go into the direction of wars, in which, we begin to have these intergalactic kind of wars again, and repeat those patterns as we have in the past. And the other one is that we come in and we live in harmony, in unity with these intergalactic species. Yeah, exactly. But I have to say that all of that is happening on the internal universe of every single human. And that's something that it's a very difficult concept to understand. Like, what do you mean? We're here, but it's out there. It's actually all in here. And that's where the human has to focus, because when the human focuses on what they're creating here with their guides, with their interdimensional connections, the world begins to follow, because that's how this holographic system functions. I hope that's clear. That's my thought.
I'm hoping we're heading towards that peaceful society, and hopefully I'll be around to see it as well, because it sounds amazing and I would love to live in that kind of a world. So that's what I'm choosing to manifest for myself. Now, you brought up one of my favorite topics is timelines, and you just talked a little bit about it there. I know we have the ability, from what I understand, to choose the different timelines that we would like to experience for ourselves. And there's ways that we can also remove blockages from our timelines. Do you have any techniques or anything you can share with people listening on how they might be able to choose the timeline that they would like to live in for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we create timelines is all based on everything that is in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the center that it basically is a projection of your genetic ancestral history and also everything that you are as a soul, as a higher self. Okay. So when we access that through the emotional body, when we begin to understand what are the patterns of emotions that we're living out, what are the repeated ancestral traumas that we're repeating out right now, and you begin to unpack that, deprogram that, and replace it with a new program, which is more expansive, more unifying, that is conducive of harmony, internal harmony and peace. This begins to change bioelectrically the way that your entire organism functions, because we are bioelectrical and biochemical. The body is a vortex. This entire universe has chosen the spiral as a pathway of how energy expresses itself and self-organizes itself. And our body is that spiral. We are a toroidal field of energy, and we're made up of millions of micro little spirals down to our cells that are creating toroidal networks of this holographic organism. And essentially, the way that we use our body, whether our root chakra is wide open, okay, the chakras are centers in which this infinite potential is organized in the chakra system. If the root chakra is wide open, overactive, out of balance, it literally becomes the filter of your reality. So it defines your frequency, which is wavelengths of information that you are expressing out. And because this universe is bioelectrical, it's about resonance, right? So we literally co-create the matching energy to whatever you're sustaining. So if you're in the root chakra and you're in a state of fear, you don't feel safe, you don't feel like you belong here, you don't feel like you should be here in this body, that's all you're going to experience. And you're going to experience that in your terrestrial, human, dream experiences. And you're also going to experience that in your dream state when you're entering higher dimensions. So when we talk about making timelines, a lot of us, we only think about this terrestrial timeline. We're constantly affecting timelines interdimensionally. The majority of our life is lived out in dreams, in when we sleep, in our dreamscape, because this is where we enter into multiple aspects of ourselves that we also need to be reintegrating through the awareness and activating lucid dream. Okay, so lucid dream is the ability to become aware of yourself in the present moment 100%. Okay, and it's that level of awareness that changes the spin rate of the body from a centrifugal state, which means depletion of your energy, into a centripetal state, in which the body begins to bioelectrically cultivate that charge. The first step for cultivating conductivity, the ability to create large conductivity, which means that your energy body is growing, your aura, people call it Gara. You are meditating at least 30 minutes a day in Vipassana meditation at first, okay, which means absolute observer, whatever name meditation technique it is, that you are training your observer to simply observe yourself in absolute stillness is the first thing to begin to regulate your nervous system and to train the body to have a pause of observer throughout your day. This really takes, you need to do this for at least a couple months to train the body, depending on how, disconnected you are from your body, because we have to come back into the body. The majority of us are out here. We don't even want to be in the body. We don't want to feel the difficult emotions, the stress, the anxiety. So we have to be in the body. So grounding and connecting with the body, I teach something called GPAC, grounding, protecting, aligning, and co-creating. Okay, so we're using the technology of the body. And grounding means that you are aligning yourself with the frequency of the earth, which is extremely regenerating and nourishing for the human, but also it's the entry connection bioelectrically to the DNA of the earth through the Akashic records. Okay, so that is the ancestral memory that has to come forth in the body eventually as you do your healing and meditation. Aligning is that you're working with your chakra system. The chakras can be expanded and contracted on demand based on how we're going to be using the information there. When you check in with your body and your root is wide open and out of balance, that's all you're going to see. So when you shrink it down, what happens is that you are cultivating that energy. And a lot of times the chakras are stagnant. Okay, we have like dormant chakras. So it's a double-sided vortex that creates a sphere around your body, right? So sometimes we have the root chakra in the back, let's say, it's totally stagnant. The back of the body represents the subconscious mind. The front represents the conscious mind. So if you can imagine, a lot of us have a lot of stagnation. We don't even know what we're having in the subconscious mind or what's happening in the back of our body. These literally result in physical ailments and even illnesses. So the human has to learn how to rebalance these chakras, literally open that up. They function like flowers. It's like petals of a flower that are spiral. And we have to expand them. We have to open them. We have to make sure they're moving. We have to work with energy to clear them out and open that information. And that information is both emotionally and it's also energetic. So we're cultivating our intuition here. So as you begin to learn how to work with the chakra, as you open, close, clear these centers, we want to cultivate a wider range for your heart. So you expand your heart, expand the throat, expand the third eye, and activate your crown and your eighth. This is a system. Your crown, your seventh is your relationship with your higher self, and your eighth is a relationship with source. So most of us are completely severed from this awareness, and this is why our lives are in such profound confusion and we lack purpose. So the cultivation of this system is the key for that healing. And finally, the crown, as I mentioned, we have a certain signature, a vibrational frequency that is designed as a result of all our programs from our ancestral lineage, everything that we are. So that is a frequency that has a color. And when we understand that color, we can place it up into the crown and align the higher self with all areas of our life. So instead of living life without intention in a state of unconscious repetition, we live life completely intentionally aligned with the higher self. And it's a completely different perspective. It's also a different geometric expression that is more harmonious with nature in the body. So that's a little bit in some things, but I go really deep into these techniques on my channel. If you guys want to learn, it's free. You guys can just check it out.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
And I would just say that actually, if you learn how to close the chakras just during meditation, you shrink them. You don't turn them off. You just shrink them down, the first three chakras, and open heart, throat, third eye. It's going to make it so much easier for you because it clears the static noise of all of this overactive, imbalanced things. So anyway, just put that.
Even my 10, 15 minutes, it's centered me for the day. I can't imagine how much more wonders are going to come my way. So I'm definitely going to check that out. One of my favorite movies, and you mentioned this earlier, not the movie, but the phenomenon. What's your understanding of The Matrix? Recently, I just watched an interview and they were blaming The Matrix for their lot in life, which I thought that's interesting. So what are your thoughts on The Matrix?
Well, the way that I understand it is that this is a holographic system. What we call reality is very much a holographic system. And we are literally essentially wearing the headset that is projecting into this reality. The matrix, in that the holographic structure has certain laws of physics that are pertinent to this planet, to the physics of the planet. But I think as a human race, we're just coming to understand what that means. There is something called the morphogenetic field. And the morphogenetic field basically functions as the instruction manual that brings into form the physical body, all organisms. It is the full genetic database from which is selected through this self-organizing intelligence, the organisms and the form they're going to take, matter and organisms. So for me, what we call this holographic construct is basically an overlay that is abiding by the laws of this morphogenetic field that interconnects us with every dimension possible that is accessible to the human body. The humans play the most important role in creating the matrix, and it's my opinion that I believe that the Matrix is a direct reflection of the human condition as a whole. So, and I think we've seen that with many civilizations, because our evolutionary path, the trajectory of evolution that the human has, is that every lifetime or every experience, every ascension that we are experiencing, we are expanding into a more expansive version of ourselves. So, we're humans, and we recognize that we're actually not just this little physical vessel. We are everything through this field. It's the awareness of ourselves in other planets, in other dimensions, that actually expands our field. And eventually, we come into such an expansive state in our evolutionary process that we experience life as even planets, as universes, as multiverses. So our evolutionary process is to continue expanding that awareness. So I think that the holographic system is a temporary one part of simultaneous lifetimes that we're actually experiencing. And we co-create this holographic system based on what's necessary to experience by the laws of the three-dimensional Earth plane.
Wow, you have just a vast array of knowledge on so many topics. I'm just so impressed, and we could do a deep dive on any one of those topics and probably spend an hour or more talking about it. So hopefully we'll have to have you back and join us again another time. And we just are so appreciative of your time today, Geraldine. I know that you offer healing modalities through your website. You also offer corporate programs, one-to-one coaching, and helping people raise their awareness and increase their frequency. So you're a busy lady. Are there any special projects you're working on at the moment or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm teaching a course on the cultivation of deep self-trust, and that will be September 14th. So if anybody's interested in that, I'm actually running a 30-day running life force challenge right now. So we're on day 20th, I believe, right now. So if you guys want to sign up for that, please do check that out on my YouTube channel and my website. And I also have really exciting conferences. I'll be in Las Vegas for the Biomed Expo. So definitely check out my website, and I can't wait to participate and connect with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll be sure to include all those links in the description of the video as well. In closing, would you like to leave any final thoughts for anyone listening today?
Yeah, just get familiar with what it means to love and come into the state of love. The 0 point that is cultivated from the state of non-judgmental neutrality is from where the pure bliss state of unconditional love emerges. So try to develop that in yourself, profound peace, connection with yourself, authenticity. This will help you cultivate this. So that would be what I leave you with. Thank you.
Well, that's a beautiful message. And we just appreciate your time today and all the knowledge that you shared and sharing your experience with us. So we just want to say thank you so much. And we wish you all the best. Thank you.